Right, welcome back. There we go, my Metzler Crew 4 tyres doing really well. And we're good to go. And we are currently in the little village of High Bentham. And we is going to go over to Tops. And down into Sladeburn and the Trough of Bowland. Oh, Lancashire. Oh, and I haven't had my injections. And I haven't got my passport. Hey! Here we go. Spectacular little run over the tops this, if you want to try it from either direction. You can either get this end to Sladeburn and follow the signs for Bentham, or get this end to Bentham and follow the signs for Sladeburn. Loving this here CF Moto 800 MT. So far, so bloody good. What a feisty engine. And a shout out to another YouTuber, Mindful Motorcyclist. Mindful Motorcyclist, go check him out on YouTube. Sean, I saw your review of this bike. And your review of other bikes as well, so you've done a few lately, haven't you? And yeah, well impressed. Some very detailed and considered observations on this bike, just about all of which I completely agree with. After what, 1,300 or whatever, just coming up to 1,300 miles. No issues with the throttle, no snatchiness to speak of. Well, not for me anyway. I've certainly got used to the fly-by-wire throttle on this bike in both riding modes. And I noticed when the Missenden Flyer reviewed this bike recently and did his top 5 dislikes, and the one that he sort of emphasised the most, insofar as I could tell, was his difficulty in finding neutral. Well, let me tell you, TMF, no such issues with this bike whatsoever. I've absolutely no problems finding neutral. One of the better gearboxes from that point of view. Now, I don't know if it's because you have the Tour model with the quick shifter, and this is the Sport model and doesn't have the quick shifter. I don't know if that's of any significance, or whether you've just got one with a bit of a cantankerous gearbox, but let me tell you, on this bike I've had no issues whatsoever. So yeah, sure, Mindful Motorcyclist, he said some nice things about me and this channel. I really appreciate that, and so I just thought I'd give you a mention. Go check him out, Mindful Motorcyclist. Right, so we're going over at Tops now, and down into Sladeburn, and then through Trough of Bowland, and we'll be in Moto UK's territory. Nick, where have you been? I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. I hope everything's alright. Missing your content, or is it all boat face stuff at the moment? Look at this here view, just look at that. Right, so lots of negative comments on the old channel concerning the well overheated, as far as I'm concerned, debate around camshaft failure on the 790/890 KTM engines. Now the 790 engines, like this bike has, are made in China, and the 890 engines, as far as I'm aware, still made in Austria. So in and amongst the heat and rhetoric which is populating this here debate, in as much as it is a debate at the moment, let's see if we can just talk some facts and figures, because some folk are getting hot under the collar. And I've had a fair few comments on the channel saying, are you worried about this? I'll answer that now. No. This bike has a 4-year warranty, so no, I'm not worried. But as far as I can tell, this being a 2022-2023 bike, KTM addressed some issues around camshaft wear prior to the manufacture of this bike. So what's the fuss all about? Well, it is reported that quote unquote a lot, and what's a lot? A lot is a relative term. A lot, it's not a finite figure, but quote unquote a lot of people have had issues allegedly with premature cam wear and on occasions camshaft failure on the 2018, 2019 and 2020 model year bikes sporting the KTM 790 parallel twin engine. That's the LC8 engine, the LC8 engine. There is a Facebook group specifically dedicated to that issue, and at the time of recording this it has about 8,500 members. Now what we need to bear in mind is that not everybody on that group will necessarily have had an issue with their camshaft. There could be people on there because they're just interested in the subject, or because they've got one of the models in question and they've not had any problems yet, but they just want to keep an eye on things. So yeah, not every one of those 8,500 people will have had camshaft wear or camshaft failure on the LC8 engine. By the same token, and in the interest of fairness, of course, not everybody that has had an issue with camshaft wear or failure will necessarily be on that Facebook group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that those two caveats that I've just outlined sort of cancel each other out. It's a rough sort of science, I know, but bear with me. And we're going to say that there's been 8,500 recorded or reported instances of premature camshaft wear. Now what KTM have said in their responses is that they looked into this problem on the 2018, 19 and 20 model year bikes sporting the LC8 engine, and established that it may have been an issue with oil supply and the width of the cam fingers. So both those issues being addressed by the addition of an extra oil strainer, I believe, and by increasing the width of the cam fingers. Now in fairness, there have been some reports of some of the later engines, i.e. post 2020, 790 and 890, with similar issues. But from what I can see, the vast majority of those that have been reported and recorded are on the earlier bikes. So that's the situation there. But let's take that 8,500 as a ballpark figure. So I've looked into KTM's global sales of their models using the LC8 engine, both variants. So that's the KTM 790 Adventure, the KTM 890 Adventure, the KTM 790 Duke, and the KTM 890 Duke, and looked at the total sales of those bikes. So these figures are a bit artificially constrained actually, because they don't include sales of the CF Moto 800 MT, and they don't include the sales of the Husqvarna Norden 901. So just the KTMs, if you add together total sales of those bikes from 2018 onwards, when the 790s came out, and you express those 8,500 Facebook page members as a percentage of those total sales, it comes in at something like 0.2%, probably a little bit under 0.2%. Let's assume I'm wildly out and it's double that. Maybe it's 0.4%, or maybe it's triple that, 0.6%, or quadruple, 0.8%. If I'm a factor of times 5 out, it's still only 1%, which is all very interesting, isn't it? Now, I am not going to tempt Providence and say this isn't going to happen to my bike here. Hello, baby. Hello, baby. I'm not going to say it's never going to happen to my bike here. I told you when I got this bike, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and you're going to get it warts and all with this bike. And if I have an issue with camshaft wear, which apparently can be easily noticed and manifests itself in a couple of ways. If I do get an issue with it, good people out there will be the first to know, because I shall cover it, I promise you. So I'm not going to leave a wide open door to fate and say I don't believe it will ever happen to me. All I'm going to say is, number one, the figures suggest that it is highly unlikely. Number two, if it does happen, I've got a 4-year warranty on this bike, and I have absolute confidence if I had any issues that Appleyards and CF Moto will sort it out for me. So that's the bottom line. You see, what tends to happen is when you get an issue, and I'm not saying there isn't an issue, clearly there has been an issue, but what KTM have said in their response, and I'll put the response up, the latest response from KTM on the screen, but basically what they've said is the problem that was identified with the 18, 19, 20 models has been rectified, as I've just described. That where people have had problems, it's been dealt with under warranty, but that they are also happy to look at every case where there may have been an issue outside of warranty, and if it becomes evident that that issue was down to the same problem with the camshaft, No. They will honour remedial work too. Now that all sounds very, very fair to me, assuming that they're as good as the word, and I have absolutely no reason to doubt that they are. So yeah, that's clearly KTM's position. They concede an issue with 18, 19 and 20 model year bikes. They put it right, and or they will put it right in or out of warranty, which strikes me as being pretty reasonable in the circumstances. What they haven't done, and what some people have been clamouring for, is issue a general recall. They point out that they've dealt with each case on its merits as they have presented themselves, and I can understand why a motorcycle manufacturer don't want to issue a general recall. Reputationally, it's not the best thing, is it? But all sorts of bikes have had recalls. BMW GS's have had recalls, haven't they? I think the latest one's had a recall. So that be that. So no, I'm not worried, not at all. A lot of people in the comments, for some reason, to the point of obsession, aren't you worried about this camshaft, aren't you worried about this, aren't you worried about that, what about this Facebook group, yada yada. And no, I'm not. I've bigger things in life to have to worry about than that. So no, I'm not, but I suspect a lot of that is, I mean, some of those comments have certainly come from people who were originally somewhat critical and a bit disparaging about my support for Chinese-made motorcycles. And when I bought this bike, I had plenty to say. So I suspect that some of these comments saying you should be more concerned about this problem with this here engine are coming from people that are basically anti-Chinese bikes. Let's put it that way. Not all of them, but it's clear to me, having read some of those comments, that some of them derive from people's set ideas about whether we should be having Chinese-made bikes. Well, you know my position on that, so I don't propose to go through that again. Aye, so yeah, the great KTM camshaft debate, debacle, calamity. Hey, when people set hairs like this running, they seem to get a momentum all their own, and can sometimes end up becoming a grotesquely distorted version of the original truth. But we'll see, won't we? We'll see.